Connor McDavid certainly knows a thing or two about that, right? He's been a captain for many, many years at this point, and recently met with the media and was asked about the challenge of doing it again and returning all the way back to the Stanley Cup final this year.
Yeah, obviously it's a little bit different. I didn't love the start I had last year, both personally and for the group. Definitely learned a lot of lessons that way. You know, the goal is to peak in early October, not necessarily early September. So, you know, you can't get ahead of yourself. You know, we talk about lessons and implementing them as you go. And you know, last year a big lesson would have been not getting ahead of yourself and taking care of what's in front of you. You know, for us, that's getting ready to go for a big camp and going from there. I'm worried about this year. I'm worried about being ready for the season, you know, both myself personally and the group. And that's where my focus is at. It's not on anything else.
I mean, you love to hear it. If you're an Oilers fan, that's the focus. And they don't want to have to climb out of the hole like they had to last year. It was amazing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, to do that and then go all the way to a Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. But I like what he's saying, where it's like, we're not going to waste any time. We want to control our destiny from the get-go.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. You know, certainly this group will be, you know, you hate to fall short at, you know, when you get that close, you hate to fall short. It happened to me twice in my career. But having said that, for someone like Connor and for this group in general, there is much to be gained just by virtue of having had that experience. You know, we always say teams almost have to lose when the expectations are high to gain the maturity, to gain the experience, to self-correct, and then to go on to eventually win. So I think that's something that this group will ultimately take away. We talked about this other aspect in our production meeting today, and this is more a focus on Connor himself. Remember, there were times this year, regular season and certainly in the post, he's taking down 22, 23 minutes and beyond per night. For a forward that plays with that kind of intensity, it's hard to be, especially in the third period. It's hard to be effective and impactful when the game is on the line. Here's a look at how his time on ice has evolved over the course of his career. An observation made today, and I think this is kind of interesting. Perhaps an objective is to keep Connor somewhere closer to 20 minutes, even under, a smidge under 20 minutes per night during the regular season and even through the postseason. It allows a player like that to be more effective. Again, third period when the game's on the line. We saw third periods last year in the postseason where he's out there a lot and it's close, but he just didn't have what it takes to kind of deliver. I had an interesting conversation during my tenure with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Teemu Selanne came to me because Craig Hartsburg would play Teemu those kind of minutes, 22-ish. Teemu used to say to me, Stu, 18 minutes a night, 19 minutes a night, as long as I'm south of 20, I feel really impactful. I feel really competitive in the end of the game. 22 minutes, 23 minutes, it's a heavy, heavy load for guys in that, you know, we're not talking about sitting back on your heels and watching the game come to you as a defender. When you're a forward like that, you are always pushing it. It's a sprint. It's a sprint every time you're out there. So I think that will really be a challenge for the entire group and Connor. Keep his minutes down, and there's a positive upside, backside to that as well. You allow the bottom six to take more responsibility, and depth has been a challenge for this group. You allow the bottom six to take on more responsibility, and they themselves perhaps can be more impactful when they're getting a bolder share of the responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yes, it definitely does. Yeah, and then we saw that toward the end, and certainly all the way down their Stanley Cup final run was the sharing of the load and the responsibility. I remember in the final we were talking about, where's Leon? Where's Connor? They're so quiet. They're held off the score sheet.
Yeah, he looked, there were moments he just looked gassed. He looked gassed at the end of the game.
All right. Well, we know one thing is probably for sure. He's going to hit 1,000 points.
Yeah.
He's 18 points away.
Can you believe that?